The regular meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 will come to order. Please join me in silencing your cell phones. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Cleveland.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hartman.
Here.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner McGurk.
Here.
Commissioner Perrine. Here. Thank you.
Police Department Chaplain Bill Kitchen will lead the invocation. Please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we thank you. We thank you that we can gather like this. They can't do that everywhere on this planet, Father. So we have a privilege starting right off the bat. Thank you for the people who are up here and the people who are back here. And Father, I pray that everything that we say today will pass the God test. That you will say, I approve of it. And that you will also say, I approve of the way you said it. Honestly, calmly, maybe with some brevity and clarity. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' name, I pray it. Amen.
Amen. Van and Nia Vessel are brothers and sisters and reside here in New Smyrna Beach. They're coming to the podium now. Van is 14 years old, loves CrossFit, surfing, and helping his dad on the job. Nia is almost 11. She loves dancing and music. They attend school at Upward Trend Academy and are both making amazing progress with their communications and academics. Van, Nia, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Nia. Thank you, Van. And thank you, Mom and Dad. Upward Trend Academy, the city staff, commission, and residents are in your debt for what you do here. Let's approve the agenda. Mr. City Manager, are there changes to the published schedule?
Yes, sir. I have one change. I would like to continue item 7J out of the consent agenda for the next meeting. The contractor who is supposed to sign the contract that just died. So until they figure out who's going to be signing the contract. So if you would please, we would like to move it to the next meeting.
Very good. And now for presentations, we have a review of our annual comprehensive financial report by the James Moore CPA. Jim, will you come forward, please? Mr. Jim Halloran from the James Moore CPA firm. He's going to give us a presentation on what his findings were with this past year's audit.
Alrighty, well, good evening, everyone. Here to present your audit of for your city of New Smyrna Beach. This, of course, is for the year ended September 30th, 2022. So always remember that when we're kind of going through the different areas. Thank you for everyone meeting me before as well. I meet with each of you individually, and I always enjoy those conversations we have. There we go. So in the audit report, it's a big book. It's an annual comprehensive financial report, and that includes your financial statements as required by the Auditor General. Then in addition to that, you guys also prepare the annual comprehensive financial report that includes a statistical section and an introductory section, including a letter transmittal. And then you provide that to the Government Finance Officers Association each year, where they grade it, and they provide, if you meet the standards, a certificate in financial reporting excellence. So we anticipate you guys will receive that as well this year. So in that report, of course, there are management's and yours financial statements. Our responsibility as auditors is to provide an opinion on those financial statements, and there's some additional compliance reports. A total of 5 different reports are included in that financial statement. So one of those reports is the opinion on the financial statements themselves. So that's considered an unmodified opinion, which the best opinion we can provide as independent certified public accountants. States that the financial statements present fairly in all material aspects, your financial position, results of operations for this year ended September 30th, 2022. Also, you'll see in that report, it's referred to the Utilities Commission. We do not audit the Utilities Commission. There's a separate audit on that. So we refer to the auditors who perform that audit. This year, you were subject to both federal and state single audit. And so with that, we have to do additional compliance auditing over those programs, and we had no findings in that audit. You'll see this is going to be very boring. I'm going to say you don't have any findings this year, which is a difference from prior years. Government auditing standards, you're also subject to that. The state of Florida requires that. And we provide a report of internal control over financial reporting as well as compliance, and we have no comments to report this year as well. The Florida Auditor General has some items we're required to report back to them on, and it goes through a number of different items, but one area is providing any recommendations or improvements that did not meet the level to be reported under government auditing standards. So with that, this year we have no comments. All your comments that we had in the prior year have been resolved. There's also a separate CRA audit that's issued that's required by state statute, and in there you'll see special district reporting required for any independent special district, not just the CRA. The biggest thing for you guys in there would be any projects over $65,000. The examination report on Florida investment statutes, that's required as well under Florida statute, and we compare the city's investment policies and whether they were in compliance with both with your policy with the city and also the Florida investment statutes. And we had no items that were required to be reported there. So single audit for this year, federal and state, you had both this year. The big one, of course, was the ARPA funding. So about $12.5 million in total federal awards. Majority of that was the ARPA funding, about $10.1 million. On the state side, you had about $2.5 million in grant funds coming in. The biggest one was Airport Aviation Grant Program, about $2.1 million. So this is, as I mentioned before, you see the zeros in the 2022. So those comments of material weakness would be the most severe comment we would provide as an auditor. The next level would be a significant deficiencies. Then single audit findings would be if we were doing compliance testing over your federal or state monies and we found any issues there, and then purely suggestions and recommendations from the Auditor General. So you can see going back to 2018, 2019, there were material weaknesses and significant deficiencies, and over that time it's improved. You know, Natalia and her staff, your finance director, over that time period, you know, one, training them, getting fully staffed, and keeping those people is the key to that success. So congratulations, no audit adjustments this year too, guys. So a little bit on the numbers. Can't be an accountant and not talk about numbers at all, but your general fund, your main operating fund, and at the end of the year there, you had about $16.3 million. Majority of that is assigned for the following year. About $4.7 million out of that 5.3 of assigned fund balance is being utilized in the next year's budget. Like with everything going on these days, whether it's supply delays, construction delays, you have a lot of projects that didn't get completed in September in the 2022 year that are then carried over to 23. So one analysis to look at is to say, well, is that $15.7 million of assigned and unassigned fund balance, what is that really? How does that relate to our total expenditures we have in a year? So think about it as everyone has their personal preference on number of months of rainy day funds they leave for themselves personally. So you look at that and you say, okay, that percentage would be about 42% or 5 months is what you really have set aside. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends a minimum, that means don't go below 2 months. And in cases in Florida these days, it used to just be my coastal cities. Now it's every city I do, regardless of where they are in Florida, even in the middle of the state. We're recommending way more than that just because of what we've seen with anytime you have to deal with FEMA and that long delay in receiving back that money. So some of your other governmental funds, this would be your airport fund, your building inspection fund, CRA, all these are combined up, and you'll see there's a good increase there from $30 to $47 million in those fund balances. Of course, you have your restricted amounts, those are restricted by external areas. So either a Florida statute restricts that money, or it could be impact fees, could be debt service, all those different items. Committed balances are basically by ordinance. So your ordinance restricts those monies internally. So you have those committed balances. So that's your stormwater fees is your biggest one there, as well as your parking fund is another area. And then assigned fund balances are ones you do through your budget process that is set aside. So you see a nice increase there over time. You're just kind of in a waiting game. All the projects, like we mentioned before, are delayed. So it's just trying to have the timing of when you can get those projects, engineered and then constructed to spend down those funds. The city does have its own fund balance policy that looks at the expenditures and related back to fund balance. And you're in compliance with all your fund balance policies this year as well. So congratulations there. So a couple highlights for the year. There was a new accounting standard. This accounting standard related to how leases are reported in your financials. So this related to both if you're a lessor and if you're a lessee. So on the lessor side, your largest area that was impacted was the airport. Airport, of course, you had a number of properties out there. We have long-term leases. So these are leases that are greater than 1 year, not a monthly lease or a lease that's just for a 1 year period. Greater than 1 year, about $3.1 million in receivables is what got recorded at year end for those. On the lessee side, very minor is what you had there. Most of your leases were already recorded under the previous standard related to your 2 fire trucks. And this year you did have some new golf carts that were purchased. So that's the new lease there for $136,000. Your business type is the marina. That's for the submerged land lease underneath the marina itself, back with the state. Long-term liabilities, you have about $33 million in debt at year end. You drew down some of your capital improvement note that you had issued about 2 years ago. So you drew down another $4.7 million on that note. And then in your business type, that's your marina and your sanitation fund is where that is. That's mainly the lease, the submerged land lease, about $42,000 of that. So next we'll talk about pensions. Everyone always asks me, so I always just include a slide on pensions. And you'll see that pension liability at the end of this year. About $16.9 million for the total of those 3 plans. And you'll see a dramatic increase from last year to this year. Well, if you think about it, it's not just the liability side, it's net liability. So the net is where the investment trust funds are for each of those plans. You're police and fire, and then you're also still a member of FRS. You've closed that out to new entrants, but you do have some employees who are still on it. So with the investment market being so far down compared to the prior year, that created those net pension liabilities to increase. So as always, we can't never sit. We just got through implementing some new accounting standards this year. Next year, of course, there are some more. And this will relate to software, both in-house purchase that resides on your servers, as well as cloud-based, subscription-based IT arrangements that will need to be recorded as well. And then going way out to 2025, there's a new standard on compensated absences. That's accrued vacation and sick time in those calculations. There's a note on subsequent events that happened subsequent to September 30th, 2022. And there was litigation in one of your airport lease agreements. So that's discussed in the financial statements to make the readers aware of that litigation. As well as we did have, Hurricane Ian, hit a little before, and then, right at the end of the year. But all your costs related to that storm took place subsequent to year end. So you have about $5 million in costs. A little bit more than $3 million in debris, and you've gotten a little bit more than $1 million in cash is all you receive back from FEMA. So I wish I could tell you you'll have the remaining debris removal by the end of the year, but I wouldn't bet on it, but based on past experience. Your other parts of that $5 million are projects that you have to reconstruct. So those you won't get until those projects are complete. Once you complete those projects, it's approved by the state, you'll get the reimbursement back. And you'll get about 90 to 95% of that $5 million will be reimbursable either through federal or state funds. Big thing this year was ARPA funds. So of course, we already mentioned that. You guys were able to recognize $10.1 million of the ARPA funds. There was a special provision they passed late that allowed you to recognize that revenue under a lost revenue using a standard allowance of $10 million. So that enables you to unrestrict those funds, and that gives you more flexibility on how you expend those throughout your city. So that's all I have, but as always, I will take any questions you may have.
Is there any member of the commission that has a question or comment?
May I just say thank you for your patience with me and your great explanation for some of the differences between business and government accounting. And you were very clear and very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim, do you rate other municipalities? You doing audits for them? If so, how would you compare what we have here?
That's a loaded question.
Yep, that's why I asked it.
Because what part do you want, you know?
Do you do other municipalities?
Correct, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Local,
So
locally, I'm sure.
comment-wise, I mean, you guys are in the upper echelon from that side with resolving your management comments, you know, and the prior material weaknesses. You know, financial condition, you know, based off, even the Auditor General has a financial condition assessment that we do as part of your audit. You came up as average in that analysis.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate your report.
You're welcome.
Would Director Natalia Eckroff please stand and be recognized? Well done, Natalia. Mr. City Manager, your report, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start off with some good news. You got two agenda items on this agenda. And to indicate that we have received or will be receiving the additional $2 million for the 5th Street Bridge. When we bid the project out, it came out to be almost $2 million over the estimated construction cost. So I want to thank DOT for reaching out, and we're working out with them, and I think it's going to be a good project there. So that was significant funding that they have to provide for us. So we thank them so much. The other item is, and I mentioned in my CM report, for the Everbridge texting system that we start utilizing. As everybody knows, during the hurricane, we did not have the system available for us, so we were having a hard time reaching out to some of these property owners during the hurricanes. So we obtained the system through the state for no cost. However, I think everybody is got the same message that I got at 4:45 last week. That was a mistake. So therefore, the state actually kicked out Everbridge, and then not will be using them. And I think they have until the end of June that will be able to utilize the texting system. However, the fire chief talked to the county today, and I think we'll be able to use the texting system until the end of the year. So at least we have this hurricane covered, but I will be looking for some other alternative. I think we have another software that we'll be using, but it will be at a cost. We'll be coming back to the commission later on, probably after the summertime, with some new alternative for that. We just used that system recently to help the county. They were trying to obtain easements for the trap bags and the sand along the coastline. So they were trying to reach out to the property owners, and they had a hard time reaching out. So we sent 1,500 text messages to properties, probably whether they need it or not, but we're trying to make sure that we cover everyone. The third item is we have been working with DOT for the past 3-4 years on the traffic lights at Corbin Park and 44. So finally, the traffic lights was warranted. That means in the DOT world, it's a 3 to 5 years out. I know when residents reach out to DOT, and DOT said the city is pushing back. I had a meeting with them early this week, and I mentioned to them about that call, and the guy who actually received the call was in the meeting, and he indicated to me maybe his comments were misunderstood. Initially, when they came back and they said the traffic light was warranted, it does come with, they call access management, which means they close medians. So when I saw that, I think that would be probably an impact to the residents. So I suggested for them that they need to have a public meeting to inform the residents within the area, this is what's going to happen. So they were working on that meeting. I have asked him to see if he could come to the workshop on the 4th of May, the people from DOT, to give the commission an update on where they stand with this traffic lights. They're indicating that they would like to look at the entire State Road 44 corridor when that traffic light it's come to an effect, because it does have an impact on other traffic lights and other intersections. So the city is not pushing back, the city is actually pushing forward on that traffic light. I just want to make sure that that is understood. In the city manager reports, I have attached the financial report as well as the development activity report. I know in the development activity report, Commissioner Martin in particular, she mentioned about a few things there, and I think we made the corrections on them. There's an update on the strategic action plan. So please make sure that if you want to look at it, review it. If you have any comments, please provide them to us. We also attached NSP Utilities capacity metrics for the month of March of 2023. The public participation comments that we had on April the 11th, we had 10 public participation comments, and I will go over them briefly here, but we had a councilman from Volusia County, Councilman Johansson. He came in and he spoke about the collaboration between the county and the cities. He wants to, he talked about the dog beach in Ormond by the sea, and also he urged residents and the cities to track state bills that are out there right now concerning home rule. The city is tracking these bills. Also, the city is collaborating with the county on these efforts on the beach by helping them out with sending the text messages and obtaining the easements. We had the residents, or a few of them, spoke about the historic preservation issue that we're having. And these comments were actually, it's a concern to them and to us as well. That's why we were having the public meeting that it's scheduled for May 10th to address some of these issues and to clarify these issues as well. We had a comment from Venetian Bay. Somebody spoke about Venetian Bay. He spoke during the town hall meeting that Vice Mayor Hartman held at the Brannan Center as well. Just want to let you know that the staff is working hard on trying to work on these issues in Venetian Bay. Some of these issues, those people, they bought their properties in Venetian Bay with a lot of promises. The thing is, they were looking at conceptual plans, not actual approved plans that they were included in the MDA. And we cannot control those conceptuals. However, we have worked with them on providing the community center. We have worked with them on some other issues. Right now, we have the parking issue that we're working on with them. And also we worked on the architectural view for the new buildings that they're trying to build. And we'll keep working with them on other issues such as lighting. The lighting, typically we follow the standards subdivision requirements that it's in the land development code. Some of these lights were either exceeds the limits. So I know there is probably, I would say, 80 lights that they're either plus or minus, and our staff, they're working on trying to address that issue in particular. We also had a resident who spoke about the cafe on South Pine. And when she spoke at the meeting, we already were aware of the issue. Commissioner Martin have sent me quite a few pictures. We were already on that problem with code enforcement, so we were handling that. There was a comment also from the chamber that they attend our meeting, which we thank them for being here. So quite a few comments about the historic issues, and then also there was a comment about opposing purchasing vehicles for parking enforcement. They think it's the parking enforcement vehicles, it's only for Flagler. Those parking enforcement vehicles, they work throughout the city, so having just using bicycles for those, I don't think it will work. It might just work on Flagler, but they go throughout the city where they have issues in terms of people parking on sidewalks or parking in a handicap space or so forth. And I just want to also point out two noise issues. One is at the crushing concrete sites. As I mentioned at the previous meetings, that we have DEP and we have a consultant to do the testing. When we reach out to DEP, they indicated that they'll do the sample testing and the grab testing one time, but they would not do it continuously. And we wanted to do that continuously. They only do it if there's a complaint, and we're not going to be complaining every 20 minutes for them to go out there. So we'll bring back to the commission a proposal from the consultants to do the testing on the noise. We're working on the other noise issue, which is, this is on Flagler for the avenue. We have been working with the owner and also with the residents who's complaining, and I think we will be addressing some of these issues at the workshop on May the 4th. Commissioner Martin has suggested to bring this item at that workshop, so that's on the agenda. Mayor, that's my report, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from any commissioner on the city manager's report? Khalid, the attainment of $2 million is no easy task from the Florida Department of Transportation. It was your leadership and your relationship with that agency that made that happen. The residents and the citizens here in town need to know that you were behind all that. Thank you very much for doing that. It's now time for public participation. What you just heard is the result of public participation's comments, where the city manager or members of the staff will feed back. If there's any member of the public who wishes to speak, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes to discuss discuss is the wrong word. 3 minutes to explain your position, to make a praiseworthy comment about something that went on that you wanted to report about, or tell us a concern that you might have, anything that's on your mind. This is not meant to be a dialogue, and at the end of that, the city manager will give you his information, or we'll exchange information, and you'll have some feedback, and you'll get at the next meeting, or we'll reach out to you directly. When you come up, please identify yourself with your name and your address. The lights on the rostrum there will indicate your 3 minutes with a green light, 1 minute when the yellow light comes on, and you'll be done at the 3 minutes, if you don't mind. Chair recognizes Ms. Gillespie.
My name is Sally Gillespie. I live at 610 North Peninsula, New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Mayor, commissioners, it's my pleasure to speak tonight with, beside me, another group in our committee, in our community, who are committed, as am I, and as he, to preserving the wonderful character of New Smyrna Beach in all of its many flavors, but particularly tonight in respect to historic preservation. As many of you will recall, several years ago, the Planning Department, after several members of the Historic Preservation Commission indicated they wanted some edits to the ordinance, decided to revise Chapter 50, the Historic Preservation Ordinance. And that was done with good intentions. And indeed, so was the effort on the part of the Planning Department to create local historic districts in New Smyrna Beach. It is important to remember that New Smyrna Beach has never had local historic districts. We have had 2 national historic districts since 1990 and 1997, but never local districts. Chapter 50 is largely, I would say at least 80% about local districts. It's very detailed. It's understandable why citizens have not wanted that applied to their homes. And indeed, it won't be applied to their homes because no one is in a local district in New Smyrna Beach. And given the prospects for local districts to be formed is dim because the industry, the insurance industry, will not anymore cover homeowners or property owners' insurance for homes in local districts simply because of detailed comment in all historic ordinances, such as our revised ordinance, that particularly and absolutely refer to local districts. Remember, national districts are national. They have no requirements that come with them. As our city attorney once said, that's an honor. It's an honor, but it carries no specific requirements. Local districts do. We do not have them. So all 19 of the leadership members of the Residents Coalition has agreed, do not pass the revised version of Chapter 50, please.
Curtis Hodges, 620 Riverside Drive, and I also speak for the New Smyrna Beach Alliance, and I would love that we could sit down with the staff and maybe help work out better things with the historical area. There's very much that we can agree upon and that we could work with the city, and but I feel like the 40 pages of changes here, I'd like to see this put aside, and so would our entire alliance and so many of the New Smyrna Beach people. And I thank you all for, I know you put your heart into it and you meant well, and we would just love to see this be put aside and not move forward. And thank you for your time tonight. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, staff, Bob Williams, 767 Pine Shore Circle. But I'm honored and privileged tonight to be speaking on behalf of the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce and the hundreds of members and thousands of citizens and businesses that we support, with being a convener and being an advocate for the quality of life in our community and helping provide the goods and services that give us a vital community. I'm pleased to share with you tonight that in support of your resolutions against House Bill 1131 and Senate Bill 1380, as well as the position by the New Smyrna Utilities against that it's not good for our community. The Chamber Board has voted and submitted letters to our legislative delegation with us supporting you in your position. So thank you for your leadership on that. Just a couple of other quick things. I want to thank the Assistant City Manager and the manager with the Parking Task Force. I think is off to a good start. The leadership by the Assistant City Managers been very strong, and I think the group has come together. Thank you for including a position for a member of the board of the Chamber on that task force, and we have great expectations for the work that they have embarked upon. And then lastly, I just want to leave you with, we are well underway with the planning for the 3rd annual Southeast Volusia Regional Economic Summit that will be at the Brannon Center on June 14th. We hope you will all be there. All 3 cities of Southeast Volusia have committed, the county has committed, and we're just excited about moving forward on coming together as a Southeast Volusia region to provide high-paying jobs for our community. So thank you all for what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to participate in public participation? Seeing none, public participation is closed. We'll move on to item 7, the consent agenda. Does any member of the commission wish to remove an item or remove for comment or discussion any of the items?
7D, Mayor.
7D, 7 Delta. Anyone else?
7F.
7 Foxtrot coming up. Okay. Any others? Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion then to approve the consent agenda items 7A, B, C, E, G, H, I, K, L, and M.
So moved.
Have a
I'll
motion,
second.
is there a second?
A second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's take up item 7D, the consideration of approval for the award and nomination criteria for Citizen of the Year. That's item 7D. Commissioner McGurk.
Thank you, Mayor. So, seeing this come up, if this was approved, was this going to be the final draft, or is there going to be further discussion on this item? And most importantly, I thought maybe I'm missing it, but the Citizen of the Year award, I think, needs to be a citizen, a resident.
Right.
So I think that was the most important thing. That was really why I pulled it. But I also just wanted to know if there was going to be any further discussion on this issue.
I
Yes.
certainly favor more discussion on it. Commissioner Perine.
I have more discussion on this as well. I ask about this and why are we doing this and a little background. And I questioned the Citizen of the Year last year and who decided that and if it came from this commission board.
So, so some background on this. The Volusia League of Cities has a lot of nominations, and usually we would go through them. And the commission added, with the former mayor, Russ Owen, a state of the city. And at the state of the city, we were going to present a citizen of the year. It was not thoroughly spoke. It wasn't vetted to the extent to which it's gotten to. And the Citizen of the Year was not, the last Citizen of the Year was not discussed amongst the commission. So I think that's something that we need to go deal with going forward on number one, are we going to keep it, which I have no problem keeping it. I like the idea of the commission having, nominating a Citizen of the Year, but I think it needs to come from the commission, not one individual. That's just my thoughts.
How did that come about with it not being from the commission and it was one individual?
Probably not because it was vetted to the extent and it came about, and I think we're now discussing it so that doesn't happen again.
I'd just like to add, it's sort of a reminder that we are a collaborative body of 5 people and involved in all decisions.
I can provide a little bit of a...
Yeah, I know, Kelly, you've got some background. Let's hear from Commissioner Hartman, then we'll go to you.
So I agree with you on part of that. It needs to be a citizen of New Smyrna Beach. However, we have some very good, quality, hardworking people that are within the ISBA that also may very well fit some of this bill. So I want to have further discussions so that we can talk through this. Because, if they're limited just because they haven't annexed in and for whatever reason, I think we're losing maybe some possible good candidates out there to look at. So we can talk about this further, but I certainly agree with you that it should at least come, either resident of the city or within the ISBA, because we do represent those people.
So I think this would be a good discussion item on an agenda in the future, as opposed to try to just kind
You
of,
bet.
but certainly have enough discussion now to get some issues on that.
Good. City Clerk, enlighten us.
Sure. On March 24th, the Assistant City Clerk, Sharon Taylor Harding, and I attended a meeting at the Supervisor of Elections office. We were there with the rest of the clerks from Volusia County for elections training. Bonnie Zlotnick, who is the city clerk at Edgewater, Florida, contacted me later that week and asked if we had a program that was implemented to select the Citizen of the Year, because they did not. So oftentimes we'll go off each other with the cities. If we don't have something, then we'll ask the surrounding cities. That's what she was doing. I discovered that we do not, after speaking with HR, and said, hey, I'll go ahead and work on this and bring it up at a meeting, because it sounds like we probably should have something implemented, and they were going to follow suit to see what we had come up with. So very open draft of what I put on the agenda. It could be open for discussion. Any suggestions, discuss it later and come back.
Thank you, that helps considerably. City Manager, if you got a view.
As Commissioner McGurk mentioned, that typically what happened is we used to recommend Citizen of the Year to the Volusia League of Cities. And then when we started the State of the City, that was done by and asked by the former mayor. So he selected, I think the first time that we selected, I think we had a group from the commission that they all agreed on that one. On the last one, I think it just happened, we weren't sure we were going to do the State of the City, and I think it was done at the last minute, so I don't think it was discussed with the rest of the commission. But my suggestion is this. I think we could have, I think the criteria is already established or been recommended by the city clerk's office. If he could use that, and then maybe if you want to keep that one as a surprise and as a secret who is being selected, but being discussed by the commission, we could maybe nominate a few people, and then I could discuss it at the briefing with the commission. And this way I could collectively get an agreement on a nomination for the Citizen of the Year. So that would be my suggestion.
Wonderful input. I share all the comments, certainly the transparency that Commissioner Martin talked about, the inclusivity that the Vice Mayor talked about, and I always honor the traditions of where we come from that Commissioner McGurk talks about. So I see exactly.
For purposes of Sunshine, the way that would work is you all would have to fill out the nomination forms, which would be public records, and submit them to the clerk. And then the clerk and the manager, you guys would have to set up some sort of body that would make that decision. But we wouldn't be able to do it quite the way Khalid described. So we could work on that process, but just for the records to make sure everyone understands, there's Sunshine Law, we are cognizant of it, and we would have to be careful how this is done.
Really good. Thank you for inserting that. I should have asked you straight up. So thank you very much. And so just parliamentary wise, perhaps we can take a vote on whether to approve this or not approve this. I speak in favor of disapproving so that we can start the process over again and have a considered opinion about what the criteria are, how many awards there should be. Should there be a resident award, a business award, et cetera, and fully flesh out what this ought to be. So I'd entertain a motion either way for item 7D.
I approve, I move to consider the approval of the award and nomination criteria for Citizen of the Year as written.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So the clarity here is if we vote this down, we will start over. It will not be approved. This will not be the criteria. If we vote it up, it will be passed and we'll be done. So a no vote means we will start discussing this at a later date after staff prepares it. If that's clear. Any other discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin?
No.
Commissioner Preen?
No.
Commissioner McGurk?
No.
Vice Mayor Hartman,
No.
Mayor Cleveland.
No.
Thank you.
Motion fails. 7F, consider approval for purchase of Ford F-350 in the capital budget for maintenance operations. Discussion on that, please.
So my discussion is that we currently in this past budget, or this current budget cycle, we approved 2 vehicles for a total amount of $71,000 for those 2 vehicles. And I've had some conversation with David about availability, getting able to get vehicles, who and what. And it appears that we're buying this vehicle because it's the only one that's available out to us right now and at this point in time. However, given that we're over halfway through of our current budget year, and you're going to spend almost the entire amount budgeted for 2 vehicles on 1 vehicle, I'm not comfortable approving this at this time if, in fact, there's other ways that we can meet our needs today through the staffing or maybe reuse of some other vehicles and maybe use it for another budget year. I wouldn't even be opposed to, if it's allowed, is to carry this money forward till next year for those types of vehicles. But I think we've kind of pigeonholed ourselves into buying specific brand of vehicles that's kind of limited our access to these types of vehicles. And I think that staff is working on some things that's going to make that better in the future and going forward. And, but to spend what we had budgeted for 2 vehicles almost on 1 vehicle, and it's really not what we wanted. It's, it exceeds, what we truly need out in the field. I don't think it's wise to do it this time. Maybe it should come back either at the end of the budget year if some fleet gets released, where there's more access to vehicles out there before we get to the end of the budget year, we could bring this back, or even just carry the money over until next year, to purchase truly what we need. But, I can't support it, but I'm not supporting the truck. I'm just spending the money at this point in time in the budget cycle.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other commissioners want to opine about this topic?
Well, I guess my question, I don't think Randy's wrong, but what's staff's feelings on this? How do you guys, where are we at with this? How important is it?
Director Ray, David Ray.
Hate to throw you to the wolves up here real quick, but,
I was trying not to.
Well, I'm just.
No, it's no problem. So essentially, what we came to is the 350 we were going to ask for during the budget process next year. Because one of the plans that we're doing within maintenance operations is we want to give the ability to have a 350, which we can also put what they call a par can dump on the back, which is something that we can help offset during the busy times, during spring break, during holiday weekends. We can have our own staff help offset Waste Pro and actually dump the toters into this vehicle and then bring it to our pit area, which we can put into a roll-off dump. So instead of asking for the 350 in the budget cycle next year, we had the funds because they can't give us the 250 this year. The 250s, we can get the 350 this year for it. So that was the rationale behind going for the 350.
So you get the 250 in next year's budget?
Yes.
So it's a swap.
Correct.
So he's thinking about, he needed to have the 350 for the next budget.
Yeah.
It's available now, so he's gonna do this one this year, and then for the next budget, he will ask for the other one. So it's a kind of a double sword, but.
So do I understand that this is a super truck and has some kind of dump capability that those other 250s did not have? And so that's why is that why the cost differential is? Or
that's where part of the cost differential is. What we would have to add to this truck is what they call a par can dump. And it's it's very similar to what you see on a Waste Pro truck, obviously much smaller, that can lift the toters into, instead of going down Flagler and picking the bags out of every single can. If we had toters during some of the major events and busier times down there, we can use this to actually dump all the toters and keep all the areas throughout the city cleaned on a more consistent basis.
May I?
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my understanding, if I recall correctly, you thought that there would be an offset in labor costs because right now you could use 1 or 2 people to do what it takes 4 people to do now.
Correct.
So there would be that offset.
Right, instead of having 4 people on staff, we can have 1 driver, 1 person, very similar to what you see on the Waste Pro truck. 1 driver and 1 person on the back. This person would just be walking.
Would that account for the phone calls that we wouldn't have to deal with people screaming about the trash all over the streets for Canal and Flagler events?
I certainly hope so.
So, one more time, slowest guy up here. Is it, trying to attend to the vice mayor's concern, was this a purchase you were going to do next year for this
It's a
vehicle?
purchase
And
we
the other
were-
2, the 250s we're going to buy this year, so over the 2 years, you plan to buy a total of 3 vehicles?
Yes, sir.
For this? Okay. And I think, Vice Mayor, your pushback is, hey, I don't mind spending it. I'm concerned about spending it in execution of a budget cycle rather than next year.
Yes, and the other point is, how much is the extra dump part of this vehicle going to cost? And is that in the budget, or are you going to come before us at a later time asking for more money? Or is that money going to come from, so, you know, purchasing the vehicle doesn't solve the entire problem.
Correct.
And so at the budget process last year, came before us and said, we need these 250s for replacement vehicles because the trucks are wearing out. Yet they're going to last another year because you're going to put them off for another year. So I'm just thinking, given some of the other costs that we've incurred this year, we may want to just hold off until the end of the budget year to see where we are on these things, and or even maybe a different vehicle that would be more appropriate at the time, or bring them all back next year. Carry the money forward into next year's budget, and we can use it next year.
David, is it, if we delay this for 2 weeks, would that make any difference?
It'll make a difference. This vehicle may not be available to us in 2 weeks.
Because I was going to suggest I wanted to have some more conversation and look at it more deeply. But if it does affect the purchasing time, then that's not really an option. But again, I think what David is saying that, and I understand that the 2 vehicles, this is supposed to be a replacement for vehicles we have. But given what the conditions and the availability of the vehicles, I think it makes sense now, since he's going to ask for this vehicle for next budget. Might as well just do it this one now. And I don't know if the 60, whatever the number is, does that include the lift as well, or does not?
It does not include the lift. The lift is just over 25,000.
How much?
It's just over 25.
So it will be 25,000 in addition to this?
Yes, sir.
Would that be covered with the budget item or not? Will be additional funding?
We would put that as part of the budget for next year, that we can purchase that, and they have those in stock. If it was approved, we can literally have it the first week of
So
October.
you will not have the lift for this year?
No.
Can I ask a question too?
Yeah, go right ahead.
About the
Commissioner
vendor that you mentioned, having better options or more options with adding on more than just the Fords. How long will that take, and what do we have to do for that process?
Well, based on the availability of these vehicles, it's not just the Ford. I think they looked at several car dealerships, and I don't think it's available. But he knows more than I do because I haven't talked to them. But is there anything available besides the Ford?
For this style, no. But as we go into the future, instead of coming during the whole budget process with a specific vehicle, we will be putting multiple different options, so we're not pigeonholed into going with a specific vehicle and having to come back before you all to change just the manufacturer type.
Question, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
I think but don't know that there have been vehicle shortages. I don't know, my son-in-law just mentioned it.
Oh, yeah.
He ordered my daughter's car a year ago. But I'm hearing sort of anecdotally that there are,
Yeah.
right? So that's playing into this, I assume?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not just these 2 types of vehicles.
Well, so we have 10 trucks on order with Ford, and 0 are able to be delivered to our city.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, I'm perplexed because, if you buy the vehicle this year, you're not going to have the capability till next year because we're not going to get the $25,000 lift until next year. And I hear you when they say, oh, you better buy this one because we may not have another one. So, I don't know whether it's a line or whether it's a salesman or the guy's trying to, I don't know. But I've seen it before. So I'm looking for the wisdom of the city manager to guide us here.
I think let's wait for next year budget. So hopefully I'll talk to finance if we could just carry forward the amount that he's got, and then the next budget we'll just put for the three of them.
Any other discussion by the commission and Commissioner Hartman and Vice Mayor? Is that where you were headed in the first place?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
I will say that I do have some concerns about, we have more and more of the street festivals, if you will, and events, and we have great difficulty not only keeping the streets clean during these events, but the day after. And so we are further tying our hands in terms of trying to clean up after the party. And this is true for things like spring break. It's true for, well, David, you know better than I do, Christmas parade. I mean, just all of these things. And we're really tying our own hands if we don't edge forward into giving us this additional. And I don't know what the costs are, the overtime costs for Waste Pro. Is there not only offset in staff, but in terms of Waste Pro overtime? Where's the offset here to being able to clean up after ourselves?
It wouldn't be so much through Waste Pro, it would be through our own staff during those special events, the holiday weekends, and things of that nature where we need to bring in extra staff to do all the garbage.
Is that in your budget today?
I'm sorry?
Is that overtime already in your budget?
The overtime, yes.
Okay.
And Commissioner Martin, I would agree with you if the lift was included in this, but the lift is not included, and that's what I'm saying, is to move it. Otherwise, it's the same thing. I'm having a truck and having the four people.
My
there.
concern is that, so next year we can get the lift, but we won't be able to get the truck. So we'll be in the same position now with a beautiful lift and no way to lift it.
Any other discussion? Do I entertain a motion, please? So, consideration for the approval to purchase an F-350 capital budget for maintenance operations. If we have a motion, we can dispense with this either with a yes vote.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so for clarity, before you call the roll, voting it down means the city staff goes back, sharpens their pencil, figures out how to do it next year, and we don't get the truck for this year. We may not get the truck next year, but that's the risk with making a no vote. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perine?
No.
Commissioner McGurk?
No.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
No.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
No.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Motion fails. Under administrative and new business, item number 8, our capital improvement manager, Alexander, is here tonight. Todd, would you present your report, please?
And before Todd starts, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, we talked to the leadership of the DOT, but at the end of the day, the staff, working with DOT staff to work out the details of the $2 million. So, Todd and the finance staff have done a good job in providing the information to the FDOT to make it easier for them to make the decision. So thanks, Todd, and thanks to everybody who was involved in working with the DOT staff to make sure that we get the $2 million.
Yes, sir, and that's really the story behind this. This project was going long before I came. So my primary role was working with city staff and FDOT, both during our Acro Bridge lease agreement and the bidding of the project itself on the bridge project. So we did have to go through a phase where we had to pull the bid, and we're fortunate enough to get everything straightened out and go back out for bid. So this wasn't the initial time that it went out for ad. It is unfortunate that it came in over budget. That's a function of our construction time right now. Unfortunate for College to have been able to find the extra money with FDOT. My role really was working with FDOT staff and trying to provide the bid tab analysis and all of the bid information back to the FDOT so they could put together a supplemental agreement for the additional funds, and also to provide the intent to award to the lowest bidder, which was P&S Paving. So what you have in front of you is the SA for FDOT adding an additional $2.4 million to the original estimate. And then, of course, the intent to award, a recommendation to award to a P&S Paving contract for the construction contract.
Thank you for that. Are there questions or comments for Mr. Alexander? Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Todd, for all the hard work that you put on this. I
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Likewise, Todd. Commissioner McGurk? Likewise, Todd. I appreciate the work. Would you say a few more words then about the difference between what we thought would be a bid and then the time that elapsed, whatever those causal factors were for it to be double? Say some more words about why it doubled. Is it time? Was it supply chain? Was it materials? Was it the weather?
There could be several factors that could have caused an increase in pricing. I would think that one of the largest factors is time for the final bid. We just went through everything that we're seeing in construction has been increased in cost. So that was a big factor. And in FDOT world, we now have to abide by Buy America, Build America, the new BABA policy, and that could have had an impact on our costs as well. With the construction industry right now, there's so many unknowns, material delays, and so that's the best way that I can explain it. I wish I had a more pinpoint, but that's the best way I can.
Todd, very fine answer. I just wanted to have it on the record for why, when you put X amount in the budget and it's double X, what the contributing factors are for that. We see that in residential building and many other things that are going on around the country and right here in New Smyrna. But I thought it was important that you get it on the record, that you are good at forecasting what things should cost. Yes, and that when we have a miss like this, it has a specific reason why it happened. So
yes,
thank you for that.
Mayor, if I also may add to that as well, that the initial estimate was way before when we had the increase in materials. So that's one. And then adding that requirement from the federal to DOT about Build and Buy American, that also added to the cost. I don't think it's $2 million, but it adds substantially to the cost.
Very good. Any other questions? Hang on for a minute, Todd. We'll keep you up there. So this is item 8A, the resolution 1423, to consider the adoption of a resolution which, if adopted, would approve the FDOT's supplemental agreement for the 5th Street Bridge replacement project. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perine?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion has been adopted. The companion is number 8A1, consideration of the approval of the award to P&S Paving contract in the amount of $6,013,393.75 to replace the 5th Street Bridge. Is there discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
All right, thank you.
Todd. Appreciate that. There are no second readings or public hearings. There are no first readings of ordinances tonight. There is one other item. It's boards and commissions. Item 11A is Historic Preservation Commission to consider the reappointment to 2 members to serve 3-year terms expiring on 14 May 2026. Madam City Clerk, your report, ma'am.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We have 2 current members, Terry Bledsoe and Johanna Mahood. Their current term for the first terms expires on May 14th. Both members wanted to be considered for reappointment to serve a second term. I was asked about the attendance in the past, as well as to report any issues. Attendance has been perfect for both members, no issues. And so I came to commission tonight to ask for consideration to reappoint both members to serve a second term on the HPC.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Perrine.
So I have a lot of papers that I passed out to the commission because of sunshine, and it makes it really difficult to relay the information that I've had with staff to you guys unless it's in the public. So I did pass these items out, and basically what I'm going to do is talk about the HPC board and their qualifications and some of the things that I have encountered with all of the historic preservation information that has come to our table in the last 5 months since December and January. So this continues to be a hot topic for all of us. And as I said before, we've received probably at this point at least 60 emails concerning historic preservation. I was able to talk with Kelly and talk about these reappointments, and I'd like to delay this to give you guys more time to go through this paperwork and to see some of the questions that I have had concerning this board. To my knowledge, this board in the past had been approving certificates of appropriateness, and what I'd like to know is who directs this board. Is it staff? Is it the board itself? And there's 5 members on this board that are special interest, and they're not part of the qualifying categories. So I did question that if we had other people that applied for these positions, and because they ran before and were in good standing, they're able to run again. But my question is, because there's special interest and not an actual professional, that maybe we should look into this, and there are only a couple of them that are actually historic homeowners. So that has been a lot of the emails that I have gotten from people, complaints, concerns, and all of this is brought up. So it's a good time now that we're looking at this board to look at it all as a whole. One of the HPC's objectives is to pursue that local overlay, as we heard tonight. So that's in the charter. They're just doing their job. So is this something that we need to tweak and look at, because it keeps coming up? I believe in one of our past board meetings, one of the commissioners said that this was in the 30% range of approval, when, or even more, 35, when it actually was not. Beachside was only a 5% approval rating, and I submitted paperwork on that. But yet we're spending our time on this again and again and again. And why? I'd like to make a motion down the road that if this is brought to us, that, you know, we don't have to review it again and again, you know, and that we can put a time frame on that so it doesn't keep resurfacing as a different title. Right now, we've got May 10th coming up as a public meeting, and that's text amendment ZT8-22 on height and lot assemblage. Well, this is going to be brought up because we don't have the local overlay. They mentioned that Chapter 50 should not be approved. Two people in the audience and our own city attorneys both have made the recommendation that that doesn't get approved without the overlay, but yet we're spending time over and over again on this. For what reason? Who's recommending this? Is this coming from the HPC, these two members that are reappointing, or the whole board itself? Is it coming from staff, or is it coming from a special interest group? And that's the questions that I would like answered before we reappoint these individuals.
Point of order, if you don't mind, can I understand the impact, either from the clerk or the city attorney, if we defer this decision? Do we fall off the edge of the planet, or is it just fine until we get to it?
Members can serve until replaced. It wouldn't, when May 14th came around, that doesn't automatically mean that they would drop off of that board. So if you need more time at the commission's pleasure, we can continue it. In order to change the member criteria and qualifications, that would have to come back as an ordinance to amend the founding ordinance, or the last one that we had. Is that correct? To
Go ahead.
change the criteria for the membership.
If that's the commission will. Just for clarity, since these appointments are per ordinance, I would suggest if there is a will to continue these items, that we make a motion that the terms of these board members are extended until such time as the appointments are addressed.
As a companion or instead of this?
Just instead of this, just say, a motion to extend the terms of Ms. Mahood and Ms. Bledsoe until such time as this item comes back to be readdressed.
Really good. Thank you. Other members of the commission with comments or thoughts? Ma'am.
One note, as we delve into the this particular board and the requirements and how closely we meet them, I would have to ask how closely the requirements are met on any of our advisory boards. I think that, be aware that we may depopulate a number of our boards. That's a good question. So, just a thought.
Great. Any others? Good points. Yes, ma'am.
One of the things too, and I know some of the people on this board and they do a fabulous job and they work really hard, and it's nothing to say anything negative or positive about any particular one. It's just, I think we have so many boards that we are only doing this joint commission on the one, but if we have joint commissions on every single board we have, we would be working almost every day with boards that, we have that many. So I think it's just a good time to regroup. But because of everything that keeps surfacing, and even what I heard tonight is confusing, because the two people didn't want the Chapter 50, but then as we see it on their website, they do want the passage of the tax relief in Chapter 50. And I have that to put in documentation for Kelly to pass out to each one of us as well. So there's a lot of moving parts with this. And no wonder everyone's confused about it, because this keeps coming up. And here's what I'm going to recommend with this board, because they do such a good job, is to focus on local landmarks, focus on individual historic designations of the people that want an individual designation, not local overlays that impact insurance. So it's a good time that we look at this as a whole, at the members. And if these two came open, how come we didn't have notice to be able to pursue other people that might live in the historic district? I live in a historic home. Nobody's ever approached my neighbors, me. I'm, of course, on this board, but that's just an example. I don't know if we are choosing these special interests because that's all that's applied for it, or do we go out and recruit for it? do we advertise for that? So all of these things are not anything to direct at one particular board. It's like Commissioner Martin said, are we doing ourselves justice with having so many boards, but not really a great leadership for these boards? And I was on economic for 4 years, so I can say that knowingly what goes on with that. So I would just like to take this time to regroup, and like you said, Mr. Mayor, that we don't stop this, let them continue on, but really take this time before we appoint another however many years these terms are to really regroup. Look at this. Look how this relates to Chapter 50. Look how it relates to the charter. We're going to have this May 10th meeting that I'm going to be speaking about it because you guys graciously allowed me to for the text amendment. And then it's going to be brought up about this. So it's time that we actually talk about this in sunshine and actually talk about our boards.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hartman or Commissioner McGirt. Love the historical perspective of where you were prior to the necking down of boards and all the work that went into slimming down to where we are and what your views are, what we did previously.
No.
So, I was going to bring up what was discussed earlier during public comment, during commission comments. I guess my question is bring it up now, which is what mostly Valley has brought up, or do you want me to wait till commission comments?
So let's dispense with this one, and then we'll have your.
I agree with a motion to keep these two people moving, continuing on the board temporarily until we, until a later date. I think we need some clarity about. I think this is all. I think all this historic stuff is going to get wrapped up into one big package, and so I agree a lot with what Valley said, and but I want to continue to keep these two people on for now. No reason in turning over the apple cart until we get there. So I certainly, I mean, if someone wants to make it easy, make a motion. If if someone wants to make a motion on, I guess, anyway, we can do that right now, and then I can make a follow up with my discussion after, I guess.
So what I hear in that is that there is a motion to extend the appointment of the current two members, Chairman Mahood and Member Bledsoe, until such time the commission has an opportunity through staff to relook at the criteria and the terms and our protocol for boards. Is that
for this
particular board?
Yeah.
For this particular board. Is that, have I stated your intent properly, sir? Okay, there's the motion. Is there a second?
Wait, I'm sorry, who made the first? Okay, so Jason made I'll second Jason's motion.
Okay, is there more discussion? We have a motion and a second. Everybody good on what our intent is here? Okay, very good. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Preen?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes,
Thank
the
you.
motion carries. I'd like to thank for the record Chairman Mahood and Member Bledsoe for their service to date and their extended service while we go through this. And we're grateful for those in the, on the Historic Preservation Board that stepped forward and served their city. Thank you very, very much.
So I guess Mayor and Commission comments is next, so why don't we just go ahead and formally go into it?
Exactly right. And if you would like to lead off there, Commissioner McGirt, go for it.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Valley, you said a lot. So you have my head swimming with a lot of things, but I think what I wanted to bring up, what was important to me to bring up, what you brought up, was what happened at the dais here today with Mrs. Gillespie and Mr. Hodges. To put mildly, this entire thing is very, very convoluted and confused right now. Sally Gillespie, representing herself in the coalition, came to a meeting and asked for us to review various historic designations or so on. the board agreed to have staff take a look at things. Staff was going to come back to us with some recommendations, not necessarily recommendations, findings. We're going to have a public meeting for staff to discuss some of the issues they're working through before they bring it to the commission. I think, or suspect, that a lot of information has directly or indirectly been funneled to staff, not at fault of their own, that has made this thing pretty interesting and got a lot of people upset. We haven't seen it yet. Ironically, what I'm seeing is an email here, a letter there. It's all very, very confusing. No one, the left foot doesn't know what the right foot's doing. So I don't know Mr. Hodges. So I'm not entirely sure what the two of them were agreeing to. It's very confusing. Because what I've seen anecdotally is those two sides disagree completely, but I have not had the chance to speak to either one of them about this specific issue. It has not come before the commission yet. It's still scheduled for a public discussion. But it's certainly, at the very least, incredibly confusing. Mr. Hodges he apologized, not apologized, but indicated, thanked us for the time we have spent. And it may have just been a slip of the tongue, a wrong word put in a sentence. But we haven't spent any time on this. It's staff. So I don't want Mr. Hodges thinking that we've spent a lot of time on it, because we haven't spent any time on it. We haven't gotten there yet. So with respect to the Historic Preservation Board, I think we need to take a look at it. I will tell you that Will Miller, the architect, still in town, very esteemed, was one of the original, if not the founding member of the Historic Preservation Board. And the whole intent of it was to have contractors and architects on it. So when people came before the board, you didn't have to get their permission. You just had to come before them to tear down an older historic structure. And the only reason for doing that was for qualified people in the field to tell them what options may be available to them before deciding to tear down a historic structure. There was no up or down vote on whether they could or not. That came much later. So the question is, do we even have on the board the people which were originally intended during its formation, which made a lot of sense. But as we've discussed, and you all know, very difficult to find people who want to serve on boards. I mean, our issue, we're always trying to find people. So when Valley wants to take a look at this board and see what we do with it, I agree, simply because I have spoken to Will Miller about what the original intent was. And there just seems to be a lot of acrimony in the community about historic preservation. Are we forcing it on people? Are we not forcing it? Who's leading the charge to want to force changes? So I'm just kind of right now crying uncle a little bit, saying time out. I think everybody's confused, and nothing confused me more than Sally Gillespie and Curtis. I always want to call him Carl for something, and I knew that was wrong. Curtis Hodges saying they're standing up together agreeing on something, which I don't think they understand what they're even agreeing to. So I was very confused, and maybe it's just me completely lost in all this discussion, because let me stress, we have not done anything on it yet. This commission hasn't seen anything yet. All the commission did is allow for a suggestion by a community group to allow staff to take a look at our historic stuff, Chapter 50, so on and so forth. So what I would like to see this continue to play out a little bit as it was originally designed. Let's have the public meeting. Let's see what kind of discussions come up. And then we'll wait till it comes up here. And we can start really talking about it because, you know, I think there's actually a lot of positive headway that we can make on the historic issue. But, you know, so anyway, that was a long-winded because apologize for the length, Mayor, but I've been sitting on this for a while trying to gauge and understand what's going on. So I got that off my chest. Thank you.
Really good. Thank you so much. I have comments at the end for that as well. Is there any other things in your report, Commissioner McGurk, that you'd like to talk about that are not historic related?
The audit was fantastic. Congratulations to Colin and the rest of the staff. You know, number of years ago, time flies. 4 years ago, maybe something like that, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know. It was, we had some deficiencies and we had some issues and we are looking really good right now. And that is a testament to, you know, a problem was identified and it has been handled flawlessly and we are in great shape. So again, thank you, Colin, and the rest of your staff and everyone who was involved in that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vice Mayor.
So to follow up on Jason's comments, the only time I saw Chapter 50 was during a Planning and Zoning Board meeting. That's the only time I've ever seen the language. That's the only time I've ever heard it discussed. And to remind everybody, they passed it unanimously through the Planning and Zoning Board to approve it and push it and to recommend approval for us. Yet one of those members of the Planning and Zoning Board came before you tonight and said he didn't want it, but he voted for it. So when you talk about qualifications and do we have the right people on the board, I think the idea behind this is we want people of say, everybody doesn't have to be an architect or an engineer. They just have to be a concerned citizen as far as I'm concerned. You know, the rest of that stuff they can learn or be taught, or an example of Susan Nealon dove into this thing and really did a lot of research every time she had a meeting. And she has no background in engineering or architecture or anything like that, and she served on the Planning and Zoning Board. So I don't want to put so many qualifications on these boards that we don't get any candidates available to apply. And when sometimes you just need a citizen with some common sense and, you know, simple, that's good, that's bad, whatever. You know, sometimes that works. So I'm looking forward to the public discussion about Chapter 50 on the LDR rewrite. I know that when you go through this thing, it's very hard and difficult to read and to follow. And I think that was staff's intent, was to put it in some format that where you could open the chapter, start at the beginning, and you could follow it through step by step. And actually, the layperson could understand what we're trying to accomplish. And you didn't need to have somebody interpret, you know, the entire chapter. So I applaud them on that. But again, you know, I'm interested in having a conversation about it. There's some things I like, some things I don't like. So, you know, that's for another day. So we had another opioid task force meeting. If you guys want, I can send you the minutes to those meetings if you're interested. If you're not, just let me know. We finalized 5 areas that we want to kind of target with this funding that we're getting from the state. Education, some additional medical equipment, additional testing, and then supporting the support groups, the peer support groups, and the community paramedic programs that are currently out there and working for that. So those are kind of the 5 areas that the board has sent to the county to bring into a formal thing about how we want to pursue with the opioid task force and how we want to spend these funds coming forward. So if you're interested in the minutes, just let me know and I'll shoot you a copy of them. And then the third thing was I met with Mr. Blitz, the gentleman who from Venetian Bay, an hour and a half at the pickleball courts, and we talked about a lot of things. and there was a very good conversation. He understands, he had a concept plan in front of him, and not something that was legally binding by anybody. So he understands that. He still has some concerns, and I share some of his concerns. And, you know, I'm working with staff to try to resolve some of those issues, and certainly keeping him and others in the area informed of what's going on, so that everybody out there knows what's going on. With regard to the traffic light at Corbin Park, I sat at a TPO meeting last month. I raised the issue with the representative from FDOT. She was supposed to get back to the FDOT or the TPO director, who got back to me and told me FDOT knows nothing about the traffic light at Corbin Park. And then yet Khalid had a meeting and they said, oh yeah, we have it. They told Mr. Lee it's already been designed, you know, but that we were holding it back. So I don't know about the rest of you, but for me, it's frustrating when we get pushback, not pushback, but when we are trying to do our due diligence and trying to get the best information out there, but yet, you know, sometimes our sources aren't reliable, or sometimes they don't even talk to each other. So where, you know, communication is the key to everything, and when state organizations aren't even communicating within their own selves, and then local boards and commissions aren't aware of what's going on, it really makes our job at our level even that more just difficult. So I don't think it's anything that, and we heard this last time from the residents of Venetian Bay, city's not doing anything, the city's not doing anything, you know, it's all the city's fault. It's not necessarily the city's fault. I mean, I know that time I bring in a ship, staff always gets back to me in a timely manner. They've researched it, they've addressed it. You know, there's limitations. Some of these things were out of our control long before any of us ever got elected up here. Probably Khalid's the only one that's been around long enough for some of these projects when they were in, you know, when they first were initiated at the county level and then brought into the city. So, you know, but it's truly, the frustrating part is that where do we go to get our correct information? You know, we rely on staff relies on their staff, and yet sometimes they don't even communicate, and we're kind of left in the dark. So it was very frustrating, the Corbin Park issue that came to head this week. You know, I know that people have been working on it for years and years and years, and yes, it's warranted, but they told him it was already designed. You know, they've told us they have ideas, but we said, well, you need to let the community know, because otherwise you're going to be closing medians and stuff like that, which affects other people. So everybody needs to know what all of the action plan is before we sign off and spend $2 or $3 million on a traffic light. So you know, those are, sorry, but it was a frustrating week for me, so I apologize. I vented. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the sharing. Commissioner Martin.
It's a busy couple of weeks. Volunteered at the event, a fun sports challenge to raise money for Southeast Volusia sport teams. Joined Sugar Mill and Mayor Cleveland in their celebration of reopening their white 9-hole course while staring at the Feldman's new home. Spent a morning at the Shore Symposium listening to researchers ostensibly sharing information about the Indian River Lagoon, but my time has been riveted by reaching out to oceanfront property owners for easements to enable Volusia County to reinforce the coastline. I know in other towns people have been going door to door, so I've been going door to door. I'd like to mention that I regret that a small group of residents was able to commandeer staff time, rivet attention, and have the commission in endless discussions over a potential Chapter 50. I believe that these issues need to come before this collaborative body and that the commission can then prioritize, because I do believe we have a lot more issues that may be, in fact, impacting more people. So we need to prioritize these things, and we need to have the commission do it. We just need to have the commission do it. A couple of questions. Last time we adopted the city's position against HB 1131 and SB 1380. What did we do with that opposition position? What happens next?
She sent it.
We sent letters to the state representatives and congressmen right away.
Good.
With a copy of the
Okay.
resolutions.
Thank you. I'd like to know what is the proper procedure for having items submitted for city commission meeting agenda. It seems to be sort of a catch as catch can. I can't quite figure out the regular procedure because things keep popping up that I don't see going through what I thought the procedure was.
So the procedure is to get if somebody on the dais, one of the elected officials would like a future agenda item on the agenda, they would ask that a consensus by majority would be given, and then it would be directed to one of the charter officers to go ahead and carry through, but you'd have to have a consensus by the members of city commission.
So we should not expect to see an agenda item that hasn't been like a new agenda policy or item that has not been brought before the commission by the commission. Is that correct?
If it's from the commission, it has to get the.
No, I said we should not expect anything that has not been prioritized or submitted by the commission. In other words, things pop up that the commission hasn't discussed, so I don't understand how they're on the agenda.
If the commission wants to bring an item, they get the commission consensus on it.
I understand that
What
part.
happens, a lot of the items on this agenda, it's all staff-driven. So if we're gonna bring the item for the commission to approve the item and then bring it back, so most of these items are staff-driven. If the commissioner wants to bring an agenda item, then they need to get the commission approval on.
Okay, remember, I'm not talking about any one agenda, of course, I'm talking in general. So the only two paths are through staff and through the commission, so we should not expect to see, for example, a resident or small group-driven agenda item.
If that's the case, then we have to bring it to the commission for the commission to approve it to put it on the agenda. We don't just bring citizens' request on the agenda without the commission approval.
I'm delighted to hear that and look forward to that going forward. Still waiting for the cost of spring break.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to bring it at my manager's report, but since you brought it up, I'll be more than happy to go over
Thank you.
Okay, so the two commissioners,
Point of order here. Any more questions, or you got?
No,
some
I
more?
was just
Okay.
waiting for
And now
comments that he
Colin's
had
going to
a
respond, and then
response,
we get to.
So you want me to respond now or respond at my report? So whatever.
Oh, I don't
have
care.
a commission report.
That's the
Very
end of,
good.
that's the end of my thing.
Oh, okay, very good. Commissioner Perry.
Commission report, please. And this is all the emails that I have received, and also staff reports about ZT-8-22 in Chapter 50. So one of the best practices that I would like to see, and I have mentioned to staff that if something is given to me that you guys need to know, you need to get it. Because why do I have all of this and you guys don't?
I did.
So one of the things is because I live in a historic district. So I've been getting letters too since 2021. You guys don't. This is why the historic board needs to live in the historic district, my opinion. It's not just because they love history books. This is very important because this is how this has impacted me. For example, this is a historical structure form that is of my house that I got from Bob. My house had to go through a certificate of appropriateness when it was remodeled by Jane Frost 6 years ago by the HPC board, but because we don't have the local overlay, that was not appropriate. Okay? Does that make sense? I know a lot about this because of what has been done, and I've had to go to staff on it. the letters that went out to us in 2021, 5% got returned from from Beachside, and that's it. 95% didn't want it, but yet this is on our briefing and our agenda again. And like Commissioner Martin said, why? Who put it on there? What staff put it on here? Why did I have to do this and spend 4 months on this? There's no reason for it. And yes, I do believe it's special interest groups that dictate a lot of this. Thank you, Commissioner. So with that, I would encourage that we do discuss these things somehow, because of Sunshine we cannot. And if there's paperwork that we received in those letters that went out in 2021, the city buildings were included in those. Do people know that? To even get your 30%. City and county buildings were included. That is so wrong in so many ways. I mean, there's just so much that has happened with that HPC board that is unbelievable. And we have got to figure out a way to either do it as a workshop or stop having it come back as a text amendment. If they couldn't get this approved in 2021, what do? Slice it and dice it and bring it to us in a different way? Is that why we're having public meetings on this again? Chapter 50, there may be some good things about it. This one gentleman on the HPC board applied to get a tax exemption for 10 years. This is the tax exemption right here. This is how thick that is. How do I know a lot of this? I went to the Historical Preservation Commission meeting. You guys were there too. I saw you. A lot of this was discussed then about the ZT and the Chapter 50. They talked about it in that meeting, so we do know about this. It's just how much we spend time on it. I spent time on it because I live in a historic home and it impacts me. So, Commissioner report, I would like to see that if the staff spends time and gives us this information, it's given to all of us. That's the best practice that a lot of the cities do. Commissioner Martin has a lot of special things that she's been working on and diving into. You guys, Randy, anything that impacts a future vote, I think we should all get that information at the same time.
I actually thought we did. We don't?
Did you get this?
I've gotten a lot of emails about Chapter 50.
So I don't understand how you can say you didn't work on that when this has been very much time consuming for me for 4 months.
Do you have other things, Commissioner Perrine? This is a big one, obviously.
It is.
And it captures it captured most of the meeting, most of our time, certainly most of our attention. Is there any
No,
other
but I
thing?
really appreciate that we had this extra time. It was an early meeting so that we could talk about this and not delay this for a workshop, because it keeps more and more. And thank you. You have a district there as well. So 95% of your people don't want it, but yet we're here talking about it again. And people are constantly here talking about it. I don't understand that.
So I have some views, but I'd love maybe a timeout, sanity timeout with the city attorney. Carrie, might you talk us through how we got here, what your views are on how to move this forward, and how to get through the morass of things in an orderly fashion? Just, and I know I may be catching you cold. We talked a little bit about this in the pre-brief, but I think it would be helpful. You can tell everybody's kind of agitated. People up here are, the people in the crowd were. I think the two people that got up to talk thought they were doing something good. Maybe they were, and maybe that just did not help at all. But you have the overall sense in the package of what's required, what's possible, and the protocol that we should be going through rather than where we seem to be wandering.
Yes, in my view, I think what's happened is it's getting vetted by the public before the commission's even had a chance to look at this thing. So that's the first problem. As for how we got there, I'll leave the zoning text to Khalid, But Chapter 50, at some point, there was an SNME proposal that the commission approved. And SNME met with the Historic Preservation Group. SNME came to City Commission. They met with you all, had a kickoff meeting, kind of got some input from everybody on what they'd like to see on this Chapter 50 overhaul, or whatever we want to call it. So they came back with a draft. I didn't think the draft was organized in a manner that lended itself to easy reading. So, I know Bob took input from the Historic Preservation Commission. He took feedback from his staff, staff over at planning. And then I worked on organization and content. The whole point of the organization of that chapter is it just flows so much better. As for changes, it's really not some radical change. When this talk about, well, the new Chapter 50 is all about COAs and local districts, that's in your current 50. That's what current 50 is all about too. 50-7, the indication that you went through the COA process when you didn't have to, that was the whole point of going through this rewrite, is to make it clear the COA process only applies if you're in a local designated district site. That's the point, is to make that clear. Excuse me?
We have none.
Right.
No local.
Correct, but we were making people go through that process because the chapter is not written clearly as is. It refers to what they call local is a designated site. Well, any one of you could sit here and say, well, a designated site, that could mean a local or a national. It's designated, right? In the common layperson terms, that's designated. But you have to read the whole chapter to realize, oh wait, designated doesn't mean national, because there's a whole nother chapter in the end that talks about specifically to national. So designated doesn't mean national. If they're talking about national, they're going to talk about national. So that was the whole point of this 50 rewrite, is when I got involved with the organization and structure and inserting the word local, was to make sure that we did not go through this process where we're making people get COAs when they don't have to. So to say that it's all about local sites, well, that's in your existing code too. All this does is make it clearer. Now, as for what CMA, SM&E inserted for, the standards, those come from a standard book. Bob would know the name of the book, but it's a standard for if you're going to alter your home or whatever. But again, yes, that's about locals. This notion that we'll never have locals, I think that's probably a defeatist attitude. You can, if there are people willing to, in a block area who want to be in a local district, they can create their own little local district. Instead of just looking at the whole national or nothing.
Through the city, though.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I just don't want to take your statements too general. They can create their own local. You mean
Yeah,
they can
right.
have the city designate.
So there's this
their own
notion that, the whole national has to be designated local. If there are individual homeowners within the national district that wish to participate in a local district site, if they could put together maybe 4, 5, 6 contiguous properties, that could be a little local district. It's taking little bites at the apple if that's what those property owners want. So there was input from the Historic Preservation Commission that, hey, we should lower this to 50 plus 1%. We can easily leave it in the current standard of 66 2/3%. So those were things that were intended to be debated by this commission.
Let me be clear. That was to force people into a local district to reach a threshold. Is that correct?
That's the threshold standard
Okay, just
for
want to make
a
that
local.
clear, because for people just listening, you segued into that, didn't necessarily make the connection.
Right.
There's a threat.
So currently, in order to get a local historic district, you have to have 66 2/3 property owner consent to create that district. The proposed revision, and this was an SNME amendment, not something I did, or it may have come from Historic Preservation Board. It's hard to determine which amendments came from where. It was to lower that standard.
What's that acronym you're using?
SNME, that's the consultant that the commission hired to work on this draft. So they had lowered it, someone, whether it was Historic Preservation Board, SNME, to 50 plus 1%. That's something that you can keep at 66 2/3, but it's kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You know, you don't like going from a $5,000 penalty for demolishing your home without a permit to $25,000. Okay, keep it at 5. So there's little portions of the ordinance you all can debate. Keep, adopt an improved Chapter 50 that really, it's not impacting private property owner rights unless they voluntarily say, hey, I want to participate in the local historic district aspect. So there's this confusion regarding that.
May I say that I think that the one word that seems to have gone from all conversation, all dialogue, but which I picked up, I don't know, at this point, 3 months ago, you just used, voluntary.
Right.
And somehow that has gotten lost in this maelstrom of confusion about something that we don't have a really clear idea of how it ever got started, let alone how it's managed to consume the city for months.
But, there's really 4 parts of this ordinance. One is for grants. Well, we have something in our book now about grants. The property tax exemption, we have something now about property tax exemption. That was fleshed out because we had somebody come in and say, hey, we want to apply for the exemption, and we had staff come to us going, well, how do we do it? So we made it, anybody, now future staff, future attorney, can come in and say, oh, here's how we do it. We just tried to make it easier for anyone to come down the line to be able to open that book and apply it. So that's my summation. That's a little too wordy.
No, it wasn't. It was perfect, and I appreciate you bringing us back down to level set about how this should be handled and how this should go forward.
So Carrie, can I ask her a
Yeah,
question?
please.
You made a comment that people can voluntarily put their home in a historic designation, and that was what I said. I would like to see that the Historic Preservation Board Commission pursue is voluntary, those words, so that the local overlay isn't mentioned, because that's when it triggers the insurance problems that we have gotten from HIG, Lane Insurance, multiple insurance carriers saying that there's a problem. But doesn't this stem back to where you found in the charter where it was changed a few years ago?
Well, in our charter, it says under the sustainability chapter, we shall endeavor to strengthen our historic ordinances, strive for local overlays, So that's the thing. It's in our charter. We're supposed to be doing those things. The problem with whether you call it local or leave it at the ambiguous designated means local. So no matter how you slice it, the only way is to have them go apply for national status, which is like an honorary term. So you can have the local on the books, but it doesn't mean it gets applied to property. So.
And the charter says nothing about forcing people into these districts.
It says that's what we're supposed to be doing.
No, but it doesn't say we're supposed to be forcing people into these districts.
I'll tell you. It says strengthen and create.
Sure, that's
Yeah.
great. On a voluntary basis, but it doesn't say.
It says
Anyway.
create local historic districts. That's what it says.
Sure.
That verbiage needs changed.
By the way, Carrie, I was on the charter review. I don't think that the Charter Review Committee understood the import of the word local. We think neighborhood,
Oh,
okay? Local has a whole new significance to me than it did, say, 3 years ago.
okay.
Okay?
Really good. And if I remember right, the intent, Carrie, as you described it, was to make it attractive, not compulsory, and not punitive. It was try to offer candy tax relief or some other benefit to attract people, not to say, we're going to hear and hammer you when you screw up.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about people in Savannah, you know, those types of cities. It's kind of one of those things that I think if it starts in a little area and it starts to grow, it'll become successful, but you can't just come in and impose it on people. It has to be like a...
Certainly not after the fact. I bought my home here, and now you're going to change the rule set on me. That doesn't feel good. And I live over here, and I want you, Valley, over there to live differently because I'm in charge. Doesn't feel right. I got it. So just continuing down that line for just a few more seconds, and then we'll get to brighter stuff. I happen to know Mr. Hodges to be a local contractor. He's a construction guy. He has several homes in the historic district. He had his insurance canceled for a variety of reasons, but nothing to do with having changed to a historic, a local historic district, which it's not. So that was his own story. I also believe he's on the P&Z, and that vote to bring this up to the commission was a 4-1 vote. He was the one dissenting vote, if I recall right. And so I think he's pure in his intent. I don't think we've had a great vetting because, as Commissioner McGurk said, we have done nothing as a commission. We are not considering it yet. It hasn't been brought. We haven't had the right preparation. And so the signs that are up around town that talk about government overreach are offensive, and I don't like them. I mean, I've been accused of a lot of things, but not that one. We haven't done anything there. And so then the furtherment of, well, we need another government watchdog organization because we have to make sure the city commission does its job is personally offensive to me. I've seen that in email as well. And not speaking for the three newbies, but we haven't been here long enough to know where to dig to do anything of that sort. So, and I think there will be clearer skies ahead. The public meeting will be very good. Colin will lead us through, along with the staff, of presenting the facts and not the innuendo. There's misinformation going on both sides of this issue right now, and it's ripping the city up in large measure. And I think it needs to be brought to an end. You can tell that we're all exercised over that, trying to fulfill our roles as reasonable people. And I think that will happen over time. And so take a breath, calm down, and we will get to it in an orderly fashion. I have great faith that we will get there. The audit was superb, and I applaud, again, Khalid, you and the team for doing that. To that end, as I look at the budget for this year, you've spent 49% of your budget, and we are at mid-year. So, bravo. I was blessed to be able to attend some longevity awards. I understand that it's our city tradition. Every year you've served, you get a longevity award of $10. So if you served for 5 years, there's $50. I helped present an award to a gentleman today that had 35 years of service today. He walked home with a check for $350. Really just delightful procedure. It's symbolic in a lot of ways, but it's meaningful in others. 2 fires in 6 days, 2 major fires in 6 days, and our amazing fire department handled it with aplomb. So both happened, the one on Flagler and Lisa's district there was horrendous, and certainly anxious to hear the causal factors and our path forward. It's a little convoluted, and we'll get there. The fire department, along with cooperation from the county, Edgewater, and DeLand. We had 9 units there. What the untold story is, the other fire departments backfilled their day job. So Randy, you know all this stuff already, but I'm amazed that all the stuff goes on behind the scenes where one city then covers for the other city who had to send their fire trucks here. So just an amazing evolution. 6 days later, the private golf course out at Trumbull Bay Preserve, Pro Shop, burned to the ground, and so concerning. And just as we're, I chide Chief Feldman about, hey, we did a great job on spring break, and aren't you riding the high? And no sooner did that happen, in runs Chief Vandermark with a big rescue of the fire department, saving the day. And so now you're yesterday's news, Chief. The new news is the fire department has saved the day. So easy come, easy go. Habitat for Humanity started a project today on a piece of property that the previous commission had given to Habitat to develop. And on Earth Day this week, we broke ground. We planted a tree and broke ground on that. It was a delight to be a part of that. Last but not least, because we have had such a straining meeting tonight on centering around one topic, you may ask yourself, why are we here? There are many organizations around our town and neighboring towns that really appreciate what we do. And if you don't mind, allow me, I'll read a certificate of appreciation for Vice Mayor Hartman, Commissioner McGirt, Commissioner Martin, and Commissioner Perrine. The Edgewater New Smyrna Benevolent Protective Order of Elks Lodge 1557 wishes to recognize and express their greatest appreciation of public service for all of the people I mentioned. And these whereases are meaningful. Please listen. Whereas the ability of local government to be responsive, innovative, and effective depends on the outstanding performance of dedicated public servants. And whereas elected public servants should be commended for their dedication and continued service to the communities which they serve, as their contributions are often unrecognized. Whereas elected public servants serve to overcome many challenges, allowing essential services to continue and playing a critical role in protecting public health, safety, and they work tirelessly to serve the constituents. And whereas communities continue to reaffirm the critical importance of public service employees in responding to public safety, health, and economic challenges, and whereas our communities benefit daily from the knowledge and skills of highly trained and giving individuals who serve in elected public service roles, and whereas these individuals are willing to serve in elected positions and are committed to doing their job regardless of circumstance and contribute greatly for the betterment of the community and the enjoyment of the freedoms in our lives, and whereas elected public servants have much to offer as demonstrated by their expertise, innovation, innovative ideas, and serve as examples by passing on institutional knowledge to train the next generation of elected public servants. Therefore, now I, Bobby Savasik, as exalted ruler, I love the title, on behalf of the Edgewater New Smyrna Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks Lodge 1557, hereby recognize the important contributions and express great appreciation for your leadership, public service to the city of New Smyrna Beach and the entire Southeast Volusia community in Volusia County. Bobby Savasek, exalted ruler. To my colleagues, sometimes the simplest things make the biggest difference. I don't know these people at the Elks Lodge, but I'm gonna get to meet them and find out what they're about. They seem to recognize what you're doing to be beneficial and meaningful.
Thank you for reading that, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate passing along our gratitude and thank you to the Elks Lodge.
Yes, sir, I sure will. City Attorney, would you continue with your report? Is there any more, ma'am?
No further report.
Okay. City Clerk, is there more?
Just a brief explanation, not really a report, in response to what Commissioner Perrine had asked about the boards. Very briefly, the items placed on an advisory board agenda are placed by city staff, not the board members, unless there's an item requested for discussion. The purpose of the advisory boards is to provide advice from a citizen's perspective to the governing body, which is you. Since these boards fall under the legislative/political side of the House, they serve as subcommittees to you, and so, which is the governing body. So the other side of the House, executive, administrative, set the agendas because we're under the commissioner-manager form of government as set forth in our city's charter. So it's very important to keep both of these sides of the house separated. The reason is to combat corruption and unethical activity, and that's by promoting a transparent and accountable structure. That's the reason that we do that. So unless they come to us and maybe there's a consensus, then they'll speak with one of our board secretaries, manager at the meeting. If there's a consensus, then they'll go ahead and include that, but typically that doesn't happen, and that's the reason why we do that. But I don't have anything further.
If any comments or questions about that? I have some, but I'll ask it in private another day because I follow most of that, but not all of it. And then lastly, City Manager, your report, sir.
Just responding to Commissioner Martin. She has asked what we have expenditure on the spring break. So the police department, they spent during spring break $81,936.
I'm sorry, 81 what?
81 million.
You did say 81 million.
Yeah, I did. It's 81,936.
I was going to say, wait, I want that truck back, you know? 81,000.
$81,936 for the police department. The fire department did not have any expenditure there. Maintenance op, they had 2,982. That adds up to $84,993 for the spring break expenditure.
Thank you for the explanation, sir.
Yes.
And
I was trying to see just
the misquoting of the
week.
Yeah, no,
So
we're awake. The police chief has left the room. Is there any more any other topics, sir?
No, I just want to, I guess, for Commissioner Perrine, I have talked to the planning staff. They're collecting all the letters that they received. I don't think it was an official petition. It was letters that they sent out to residents within the area, and they responded either in favor or against. So they're collecting those letters, and as soon as I get them, I will be meeting with you. So, thank you. You have the letters? No, not the emails. This is the one that they went out?
Yes, I have those. I have those that show who received them, who said yes, who said no.
How many do you have? Do you remember?
I have these from the Bob and Stephanie, the ones that have the county and city buildings.
Well, we could compare because they're actually making them, counting them, making
Well,
sure that
they
they're...
redid these because I asked for them a second time and I got them from a citizen, and they're redone ones do not have the building that they actually are, but the original ones that I had that came from a citizen, those I can give to Kelly for record.
Okay.
Save
Well,
you some
I was
time.
responding to your question. You gave me questions this morning or yesterday, so that's what I was doing. So, you sent an email with some questions on them? The email that you sent yesterday?
Gmail.
After the briefing. Okay.
I'll give it to you later.
Very good. And so before we close, one topic, I want to recognize the Assistant City Manager for his work and leadership and leading and pushing through the work that's going on in the Parking Commission. That's going to be something we'll talk about for a long, long time, and your body of work is very important, and we don't talk about it enough here. Perhaps it would be appropriate at some point to have an interim feedback from either your chair or from yourself of how it's cooking. Wonderful. Okay, we're out of agenda items. We are now adjourned.